And representing his father, Bill St. Paul, Jason St. Paul.
Yeah! Woo!
I'll go ahead and hand the microphone over here, and we're going to try to keep this to about 25 minutes or so here. And one of the questions, about the past, your past racing history here, and any good stories they might want to tell here. But any questions, I'll go ahead and open this up. I'll go ahead and hand things in the mic to add here, and the pass around as necessary.
I don't have a lot of answers anymore. These are my found, so,
So I'll go ahead and start here. Mr. Williams here. So you've been riding for a long time here. Nowadays, information is so instantaneous on people's cell phones here. Tell us about when you were riding and having to wait to walk in the days of the internet.
well, when I started, we were using typewriters. We weren't using quill pens, you might think. We advanced to typewriters, have a race Saturday night, write the story up, either at the racetrack on a typewriter, then try to find a place in Tacoma where I lived that had a Sunday mail pickup and delivery, and then they just hoped that it got there in time to hit the Tuesday deadlines for National State Sport for racing rules. That changed when we got a brand new invention called a telefax, I think it was. And you could put a piece of paper on there, use a dial up the phone, put the handle of the phone into the machine, and it would take either 4 or 6 minutes to send a page. That was if you didn't get a busy signal. Got a busy signal, you have to stop it back again. George Espy was talking about it, doing it. If you had like 50 newspapers to go to, you had to make 50 phone calls, and you'd hope that you weren't going to get a busy signal. You'd hope the thing would last for 6 minutes. That was a tremendous advantage. National Speed Sport at one time, believe it or not, they were based in New Jersey, and they had a thing where you could call the results in on Monday morning. A 3-hour time difference. You have to call them like 6 o'clock on Monday morning. But you could actually call and dictate a story to National Speed Sport, and they put it in. The advantage of that was that it got in because they were a national paper. And when you started writing for them, they'd send you a little sheet that says, this is how you write stories. You tell the story in the first paragraph because we cut from the bottom. And so if you wrote your story and the winner was in the last paragraph, they wouldn't put it in probably. But even if they did, nobody would have known they would won the race because the thing had been cut halfway through. So it's changed a lot, and I think the advantage of that was there was some quality control I saw in the reporting. I'm not sure you have that anymore. There's a lot more information out there, but we're never too sure how true any of it is. But it's changed a lot, yeah. It has.
So it used to be with all the racing wheels, which I believe you had to call them in other publications, and sometimes it was weeks before you learn about who won a race somewhere else in the country.
Well, yeah, Speed Sport would try to give you a break sometimes. And Racing Wheels would always try to give you a break if you didn't make their deadline. They'd put it in the next issue. But, and in some places, if you're relying on the mail service, one of my great sales jobs ever, I think, was convincing Dick Bonus to buy a telefax machine for the office there. He was a typical promoter. I mean, if he thought something was going to benefit the racetrack, he did it. He thought it was going to benefit until he did it. But that was, you can't believe what a change that was, just to have that stupid thing that takes 6 minutes to send a page. So.
What did you used to do after the race?
So some things you can say on the mic and some things you can't. But in the good days of the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of times we did have the racing done by say 9:30, 10 o'clock. get the haulers out here by 10:30, and we go down in downtown Elma and figure a couple establishments, sing some karaoke, have a good time at Papa's Pizza, go over to Moe's place for some biscuits and gravy afterwards. And I really miss those times because it'd be nice to get the community back involved again and get everybody having some good times like that. But yeah, very fun. I actually started go-karts in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in 1982. And I was actually supposed to be in sprint cars in 1986. But my dad's best friend, Daryl Dolly, got killed in Knoxville. And then we moved out here. And it was a few years break before I got into one in 92. And went right from go-karts to sprint cars, so nothing in between. But it was, should have been a little earlier, but it was all good. Time to work right. Oh, the karaoke guy? Oh, that was Bobby Valencia and Llewellyn was the two guys down at Papa's.
Roger, you got a question? For Axel, question for Axel Walker. What's the question here, Roger?
Well, I know you're big company on the West Coast here, and what was your favorite track?
Favorite racetrack for Axel Walker? Yeah, this is a loaded question here.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think going to Phoenix and driving the Silver Crown car at Phoenix was probably really a good time. Doing some 410 non-wing stuff with USAC CRA was pretty good too. But I don't know. There's a few pavement tracks that I liked, and then there's some good dirt tracks that I like. Hanford, California was one of my favorites. You know, I never went to Skagit. I raced here, started my career here, and now kind of coming full circle as a car owner back here. So I don't know. There's just a lot of good tracks out there that I got some fond memories of.
How does it feel to be the last sprint car to flip at NASCAR?
Yeah, that's a good story, I guess. So. I will. So my first time in a sprint car with actual dirt tires and a big motor. John, my dad, Kenny, my wife Kippy, we went to Ascot Speedway, and John helped get the car going pretty good, and you know, no experience non-wing. I caught up with a couple guys going into turn one in hot laps and did what you do with a wing on. You just tried to go around them, and that was not the thing to do there. That's when the yard sale began. So, and that was the distinction of the last sprint car to flip at Ascot Speedway.
So, question for both Axel and Bert. You're both, you had a lot of both dirt and asphalt experience here now. Nowadays, modern cars are built specifically for asphalt or for dirt. Back in the 80s and early 90s here, how much difference was it between pure dirt and pure asphalt cars back in those days? And how interchangeable were they compared to now?
Well, I can start it. I think back when Bert and I met in probably 82 or 83, we ran the same car on pavement and we just really didn't make too many changes. That's unheard of today.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Back in the 80s, it didn't change too much. In fact, because when Sky Valley used to come down here and race on the dirt, we pretty much had the same tire roll. We didn't change shocks. We didn't change bars. We just came through that way, and vice versa. When guys from the Elma era, they would go up, it would be the same thing. And then we'd have a kind of a dual meet. We all kind of come together at Spanaway, and had some good times there. And a lot of guys from Oregon used to come up. And then as it progressed, it was a slow progression, but pretty soon it was we're changing tires, changing bars, changing shocks, same chassis. And eventually rolled into specialty cars. Personally, I never owned a pavement type car, but I did pretty good in my upgrade. And actually, we could probably talk a little bit more on a pure pavement type car, and they are quite different when you get into them. They're built-in offsets and the rear axles and things, but why don't you fill us in on that, Axel?
Payback.
Yeah, there's a huge difference now with the way the pavement cars are versus the dirt cars. I guess a little backstory on what Bert was saying. When USAC Western States started their 360 non-wing series, I took the car to Madera to race in that series, and then they also had some dirt races. So I showed up to Hanford the very first time with the same car, and all the guys in that series, they all had dirt cars. So that was a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, the pavement cars and dirt cars are totally different.
How's the transition from being a veteran driver to starting younger drivers in your car?
You know what? It's easier than you think. It really is. And thanks, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, when I started to get back into this deal, it was to put a car together for one of my daughter's boyfriends, and now the other daughter's boyfriend is in so deep you'll never get out, and you know, and that was fun. And then last year we put Destry in our non-wing car. 2 days. It was a lot of work, but it was probably one of the funnest times I had. You know, just watching the car go around and working on it and stuff. It was different. It was a lot of fun.
Question for Ed. So how big is your archive? So we see a lot of things that looks a little
How big is Ed's archive?
Too big. That's an easy answer. I get a lot of the stuff that I post on Facebook now, pictures, articles, I don't have the hard copy anymore. I took a lot of the pictures and scanned them and sent them back to the Sprint Car Hall of Fame, and I sent some to Golden Wheels. Gave a few away to people. So I don't really have anywhere near as much as it looks like, but it's still too much. I'm sure my wife can verify that, yeah.
Jason, saying your dad here. Your dad made his racing legacy as a crew chief here. You did some crew chiefing yourself here. Dad crewed for crew chief for a long time, but I'm sure in your conversations with him, how much is crew chiefing involved with the technological advancements in racing? How was it last year compared to, say, 20, 25 years ago? From your conversation with your dad, you know.
Oh, it's,
that might be a little hard there, but.
Now to back then, it's a lot different back then. Now it's shock technology has changed a lot. Like I told you before, you know, my dad, when we were restoring, he wanted 2 cars, and that got to be a lot for him. And he's like, here you go, take it over. And I was only 17 at the time. I learned all my, learned everything from him. And but it was fun for him. He it was like a competition between him and I. And but we got him a couple times, so that was fun for me and him. And I'd never tell him what I do. I remember one night, Donnie was starting, my dad and Donnie were starting on the pole, and Randy was starting back behind him, and Randy drove around him, and we took off for the win. And I never did tell him that, what we did to the car. He asked, he was like, oh, I know. He's like, I told him to say, keep the secret. That's what he tell me that all the time. And so the cars now, there's so much technology built in them, you know, it's mainly all shocks. I mean, shocks are a big deal, and the prices of everything have gone crazy. And, you know, compared to
Jason, you've been racing forever. What's the youngest you remember actually coming to the track being a part? You can say it. I mean, I know you've heard stories since you were young.
Oh, I was probably like 4 or 5. You know, I remember my dad racing, but I remember his car, but I don't actually remember him like actually racing. I didn't actually remember everything until my dad and Jay started racing together. That's when I started remembering everything. And heck, we were going from all over the place, you know, all up and down the West Coast, you know. And there was no internet back then, so Elma would get rained out and they were on the phone, and we'd go checking on the phone from Skagit to all the way to Oregon. And my dad had a dually, and we were packed 7 deep, and we were down the road, you know.
Yeah. The things we put our
I've got a
kids
question
through,
for
right?
Judy. You're the only wife up there. I'd like to know what it was like, because Randy was involved in racing before you met him, I'm sure.
Before what?
Before you met him. It goes back that, you know, Randy was like 6 or, so I'd like to know what he thought about racing. I'd like to know how you put up with being a racing wife for.
Oh, you're asking for trouble.
Well, I was raised the wife that her husband did, and our daughters got in trouble with us, and we went car racing. I don't know. We just
Kind of like being married to a logger.
did what
Yeah.
everybody else did, I guess. I know we couldn't afford it today.
But you got to spend a lot of family time together. I actually said something about history, but as a family, but you use good family time for your family and also for access here.
I think I can appreciate what you're saying there. We did the same thing. I met my wife in 1984, and I was racing, and she's been racing with me ever since. And the girls, we went to Canada one time when she was 8.5 months pregnant with Holly. We slept in the back of a pickup truck. And, you know, but that's just what, and I think that's probably a theme amongst all of us racers. When we started out, we all did the same things. It was important for everybody to go.
Judy didn't answer my second part of the question was on Randy. What kept him going through all those years? Why did he keep racing?
I didn't understand, I didn't hear.
She can't hear.
Why did Randy continue on in racing for all the years that he did when he could have, you know, gone in other directions and stuff? What was his?
Randy just liked racing his car. He drove a hobby stock in Elma, and that's all it took. He wanted a race car. And he went to talk to you and your dad. You know that your mom said you were just another son. During the week he would bowl, but that was only one night a week, and then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday it was 4 races. It's just what he did.
think I know the answer already, Travis, but I'm just kind of curious what your most memorable moment was ever in all your years in flight.
Uh-oh.
Well, there's two of them. Only few knew one, but won't talk about that here. The daughters here. But probably, honestly, the J. Cole win at the Fred Brown Field first race. That was, I think Fred had to tell me quit waiting for checker flag. I think it was like 3 laps. I think Jay was parked in the front stretch. I still waited for checker flag. That was a pretty cool experience.
Travis, why did you get into fighting?
Well, it goes way back. I grew up in San Diego. Bob Lynch is my brother-in-law, and he took me to Elma Speedway, which Andrew's going to explain a lot of that. But I could watch. I came to Elma, and they had the slug festival. I had a slug race, Luke's slug walker. I don't get any of those slug speed. I like racing, and so I'm going to let Andrew talk a little bit because we had a big conversation on how I got into it. But I just love racing, no matter what it is.
Yeah, so, Berg's got one of those thankless jobs as promoter, general manager, official here. You got maybe the next most thankless job as a flag engineer. Is there any memorable moment there of a race being very mad at you that you might remember there from they disagree with the decision that you had to make?
Well, yeah. Fred Brownfield's the one that got me into flagging, and so I was taught by the best. And, but when he was gone, I kind of took on more responsibilities, and I made, I'm not gonna say a bad call, but Mitch Olson, he was not happy, and I was race director at the time, so I came into the pits and when tech trailer and all that. He came full bore on his little motorcycle right into the trailer and chewed me out. Yeah, that's probably it. He was good at that.
Yeah, you guys want to ask me, so why did you charge me with the yellow flag there? And when we did the flag, you're calling who's responsible for, if you saw it there.
Yeah, well, it was still kind of a judgment call, I thought, but everyone passed it. Like the first green flag lap, if he spun out, we thought he should be back in the hole. I felt since all 23 cars passed, he should start back. I guess he was pretty mad at me for that.
This would be a good one for both Bert and Travis here. How in general do you handle, an upset axle or tread in here on any given night there? How do you upset, or how do you handle a driver who's upset about something there? Just in general. Loaded question, I know.
Well, that's almost every night. There's always going to be somebody upset. But basically, what I've always seen through my career, even as a driver, the adrenaline's going at the end of the night. It might not have gone in your favor on a certain situation. It will come back around, that's for sure. But I always try and listen to the best of my ability. As long as you don't get too physical, I'm okay with that. Because what I'll find usually is the following week, usually you get a phone call from that person and they apologize. They may have seen a video or something, or somebody else talked to them, and they calm down, but I've been on both sides of that, so I mean, I understand how it can be very upsetting sometimes, but you gotta keep moving forward, and that's all you can do. You can't hold it in your mind, whoever it may be, and some people, when I first came down here, the second round, the one that stuck in my mind was Tom Sweatman met me in the pits, introduced himself, and I didn't know Tom, and I just shrugged my shoulders, but he said, well, I got a reputation down here, and I said, I don't know you, and I said, so let's just start fresh and see what happens, and that kind of follows through. I mean, you can't let it bother you, because otherwise you'd be bothered and you wouldn't want to do this. It's a thankless job, just like you were mentioning. So nice, but then again, it's a pretty positive thing too when you see people coming out and having a good time, fan-wise, racer-wise, and that's what we're all here for. to have a good time and make it good for everybody. And let's keep growing the sport.
Very nice.
And I don't know if I really can remember too many people mad, because for the majority of my time, it always went to Fred. Fred wasn't wrong too many times, he was pretty smart. But I know the question to me, but the funniest one was Rob Johnson hated to call Fred dude. And he met Fred at the tower. And I remember turning around in the flag stand, yeah, well, Rob kind of bent over the rail. And I thought, yeah, you don't want to go mess with Fred. Just, show you how it's done.
Anybody else have questions?
Is that him? Keep the cows on your own property.
We appreciate the concerned citizen here. You're watching your back this year, all right? Thank you, everyone.
Oh, wait, I got one.
Oh, wait, you got one question, yes.
The St. Paul family wants to know how you put up with him, or him. How did you put up with Billy, St. Paul? We want to know.
Well, I've known Billy for a long time. And again, same thing. I know occasionally he would call me up and read me the riot act and stuff like that, and that's okay. Because I knew the next time I saw him at the track, it was all good. And to be honest, Billy, just like Charlie, well, I'm not getting in. Charlie and I, we have a totally different report. I mean, with Billy, I mean, it was always positive, I thought. At the very end, it was always good, no matter what.
Anybody else? Last call for a question?
We had some of that. But I think the thing about research that I've always really liked is there's a lot of emotion involved in it. Everybody really believes in what they're doing. And so stuff happens at the racetrack, and there's a lot of yelling and screaming and everything going on. But in the end, everybody kind of comes around. Like when we first started Northwest Modifieds, we had Rebel Senior, Rebel Junior, Moose and Mac. And if you remember that was the Moose and Mac show was something to see. Big Ed Sneed and two of his kids, and all these guys from Idaho that were used to running their own show. And it was probably the best year we ever had. We had a lot of noise and confusion after the races every now and then. But it just went along, because everybody just wanted to race. But I think that's what happens pretty much in racing every day. That's, and probably the more grassroots it is, the more friendly everybody's going the same direction it is.
Yes, Vern.
Hey, Jeff. Yes? What do you do when the driver goes up and says, louder. What do you do when the driver says, you know what, I'm done?
Well, that doesn't happen too many times as a car or myself. I know you've dealt with it a couple of times. Most recently, I've had a driver ask me that or tell me that, and he's thanks a lot. He's hung up the seat and he passed it on to somebody a little bit younger. Best to know that we're taking the seat of our car and hope to go forward.
All right, thank you for the Q&A, your folks here, and yeah, thank you for your time. All right, so get this show on the road. Thank you for good questions, everyone. Well, thank you all for attending this 14th annual Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony. My name is Andrew Hughes. This is my 5th time having the honor and privilege of emceeing this event here, and another absolutely great class of inductees for 2024. At this time, I want to give a shout out to the people who make this happen, your board members for the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame. First off, one of the founding members, the president of the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, Mr. Rick Lee. Secretary, Cindy Badgett. One of the original founders and a board member, Mr. Glenn Walker. Original founder and board member, Mr. John Dickinson. Board member, Mr. Randy Badgett. One of our newer board members, all around nice guy, Mr. Jeff Barnum over here. Another board member joining recently, he brought some desserts here this evening, Mr. Bruce Waters. And she greeted you at the tour here, Miss Whitney Leedy. And take a quick moment here to recognize our 2023 Grays Harbor Raceway Track Champions. We already just mentioned him, 360 Sprint Cars, another title for Mr. J. Cole. Congratulations. And I think it's also safe to say he's a shoo-in for the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame here very soon. Limited Sprint Cars, Desiree Miller. Modifieds, Tyson Blood. Street Stocks, Austin Kerrigan. Sport Modifieds, Brandon Brookshire. Northwest Focus Midgets, Alex Pack. And in the Hornets, Tyler Sundstrom.
Arizona for 3.5 months. Come back for 1 week here, and then we're headed back in 2 or 3 days.
And of course, we had some, of course, we had people in the racing community pass away in the last year. Of course, 2 of our inductees this year, Randy Hooper and Bill St. Paul. Other people with ties to Elma or Northwest or just racing in general passed away. Gene Matthews, longtime official and recently race director up at Skagit Speedway, passed away during the off season. Leo Voigt, longtime racer, lost him during the off season. USAC racer Justin Owen lost his life in the USAC National Sprint Car Race last spring. They actually had a memorial race for him this year in Lawrenceburg. Gene Winters, dwarf car racer, passed away in a traffic accident back in January. A couple of big names out there. Probably someone with an influence on a lot of journalists, broadcasters, writers, including Ed Williams and myself here. Ken Squire, one of the national broadcasting icon. Kelly Yarborough, one of the all-time great stock car racers out there in NASCAR, passed away as well. Every year at the Western Auto Racing Promoters Association meetings here, Tom Glithero, who MCs that event, get some names out there. And I want to do this also here because not everyone gets recognized here. So if you know anyone with ties to racing in Elma or around the Northwest or anywhere who's passed away in the last year, I invite anyone to speak their name at this time. Anyone you know of someone who is from racing who has passed away? Pat Gross. Glenn Vincent, here from Shipwreck Deeds. Garrett Evans' mother passed away recently as well. There were huge ties to the Wenatchee Valley Super Bowl. Anybody else? And at this time here, for those who lost in the racing community here, we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. If anyone wants to get a picture of the cake with all the inductees' names here, we're going to do that here real soon here. They'll be cutting the cake here in just a little bit. But now comes time to introduce our guest speaker this evening. One of the icons of announcing in the Pacific Northwest, and in the later years of his career around the country, announced at Skagit Speedway a long time ago, became an icon traveling with the Northern Sprint Tour, and then the National Sprint Tour. Many, many catchphrases. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Pitter patter, let's get at her. And it's time to bring him up here. Back down the hatches. Somebody quickly lock the door. Things are about to get wild here at the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Please welcome Fred Ritter Jr. We do have a timer on him, by the way.
Thanks, Andrew. Well, between a little bit of sunburn and a lot of allergy issues, I'll try and get through this. Rick has given me a 45-minute time limit. I said I'd try to be done in 46 minutes. Actually, I'll try and do it in like half an hour. But great to see so many familiar faces again. A couple of things I can't believe. First of all, I can't believe how many people are here. I can't believe how many people are here that I know. I can't believe I haven't been to Elma in 13 years. 2011. 6 or 7 years maybe, but 13, it does not seem like that long. I can't believe the weather today. Are you kidding me? What month is it? It's still winter. And the thing I can't believe the most, after being gone from Elma for 13 years, Elma, Washington has a Burger King. How about that? And an Arby's now too. Wow, how times are changing. First of all, congratulations to all the inductees this year. All 7 of them, 7 great gentlemen. Just so nice to hear their stories. And really nice this year, the year that I happen to be here, is that I know most of them, some of them quite well, and that's awesome. The board of directors here at the, how about the young lady here, stealing the stage from me? Let her hear you. Trev's granddaughter. Yeah, thanks to the board of directors for the invitation. All she needs is a pair of skates, or on her figure skate, and then playing hockey. To Rick and all of you, thank you for the invitation. And again, let me echo what some of the things that Andrew said. What an incredible job that you've all done with this Hall of Fame, haven't they? Those of you that know me know that I love the history of our sport, and I just think it's fantastic what you've all done here. And I just wish more tracks in the series would do things like this, because I think it's really important. Something else too, I was just thinking while Andrew was speaking. Very appropriate that the Elma Hall of Fame colors are predominantly green, being that tomorrow is St. Patty's Day. Huh? Andrew, is that a big coincidence or a little coincidence?
We're going to the bowl. Going to Bristol tomorrow.
So, the Lady family, Rich and Gloria, God rest their souls, Rick and Wendy, been friends with with my family since the 1970s, back to the early years of Dirt Cup. So we go back a long way. And Rick contacted me first to come here about 5 years ago. And of course I said yes, so we set up, that was the end of, I guess, 2019 that would have been. So we set this up for March of 2020. Well, of course, March of 2020, the world shut down, and here we are 5 years later. So if my speech sounds a little old, it's because it is. It's 4 years old. Tinkered with it a little bit lately, but yeah, my chicken scratch that I showed some of you earlier was written 4 years ago. So then I had to think 4 or 5 years ago, what am I going to talk about? When I talk about my career in broadcasting, my career broadcasting races, what I'm doing now, yada, yada, yada. But I thought, you know, I'm just going to talk about some of my Elma memories. Elma is like a home away from home for me for a long time. So some on-track memories, some off-track memories, and some of you will agree that sometimes the off-track stories, George Hesby, J. Cole, Vern Reagan, Slim, sometimes, maybe most of the time, the off-track memories are, and stories are a little more interesting than the ones on the track. Anyway, first came here to Elma with my family when I was a little kid. Can't say exactly what year it was, early to mid 70s, back when Elma was part of the Dirt Cup with Skagit and Sky Valley. Would run Friday, Saturday, come here Sunday afternoon on the old half mile. And I remember the covered grandstand. I remember it being a little bit dusty. And I think 1974, 1975. I remember seeing the great Jan Opperman, and I know you remember that, Jan Opperman, Terry Crozier, the Outsiders, and the Californians, of course, Gary Patterson, the great GP, Jimmy Sills, who spoke here a few years ago. That was awesome that you guys were able to get him here. And then the Washington guys. Solid performances by Dick Wilski, Jerry Day, Don McLeod, and Ed. I know you'll remember 1974. It shows Jimmy Sills as champion, and he did get credit for it as one of his 6 championships. But Don McLeod from Tacoma won 2 of the 3 main events, including the one here. But back then you had to use the same car for all 3 races, and because he used 2 different cars, he wasn't eligible for the championship. But that's an evil story in and of itself. So that was 74, 75, and then we came back again with my family, my parents, my brother. 1981, that was, Rick, if I'm not mistaken, the first year of the new track. It was 310s, quarter mile, in various sizes through the years. That replaced the old half mile. I remember it was the end of September. We'd finished up at Skagit. It was an open comp show at the end of September. So that was 1981. And then didn't come back for 15 years. It was 1996 when I started to make regular visits here. So from 1996, the first year of the Northern Sprint Tour, to 2011, I was never that great at math, but I think that's 16 years, isn't it? 16 years, I was here every year, 4 or 5 times a year. And as I say, a lot of great memories. Regular season races, Northern Sprint Tour for 11 years with Fred and Denny, and just so many great memories. George, we were talking about that earlier. Jay and Travis. 11 years with NSC, 1 year with Wilski's and NSCS, and then 4 years with ASCS Northwest. Of course, the World Outlaw race, I'd be here for that. And worked with the great Phil Martelli in a number of modified nationals races as well. Sean Holbrook, I think I've told you this, Rick, I may have told you. The latest I have ever been announcing at a racetrack. We've been at some tracks into the wee hours in the morning for other reasons. 1 year modified nationals, we had to do 2 nights in one, 2:15 in the morning, we finished up over here, which equaled the Dirt Cup 1 year, we had to do 2 nights in one. So that was a 2:15 a.m. George, I don't know if you're here for that one. We'd already shut her down for the night, I think, past midnight curfew. Anyway, and then as I say, World of Outlaws. But the two major races that I was here for each year would have been Evergreen State Challenge, which later turned into the Fred Bradfield Memorial Race, which was our last two races of Speed Week Northwest. Usually the second or third week of July. We'd race in Oregon Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Usually have an off day Thursday, unless we traveled over to Yakima. Those were crazy years, George. We had no off days. A couple of years, Fred thought it was a good idea to go over to Yakima. That made for a busy week. But usually it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Oregon, off Thursday, and then finish up here with the Evergreen State Challenge. It was nice after town to town, motel to motel, the first 3-4 nights of the week. Get up here Thursday, set up shop for 3 nights. The weather was usually great, and have a big weekend. That was in July. And then the World of Outlaws, unlike the last number of years, when it's been Labor Day weekend, we were here mid-August. Knoxville Nationals would finish up on the Saturday night. And then we would meet the Outlaws in Billings, Montana, George, wouldn't we? Usually on the Tuesday night, right after Knoxville. And then we'd be over here a few days later, 1 week after the Nationals. The early years, it was Friday and Saturday, World of Outlaws only. And then I thought one of the many great ideas Fred had to really turn it into a big weekend. Jay Cole, I know you love this. Jay, don't be distracted now, buddy. Quiz at the end of this. When Fred added that Thursday night race, did that not really complete the weekend though? I had a blast that night because a lot of the Outlaw guys were up in the tower having a few cocktails and relaxing, and just not as much pressure as the big, thank you, you read my mind. Not as much pressure as for the Friday, Saturday. So Thursday night Northern Sprint Tour, Friday, Saturday World of Outlaws, and Elma Outlaw Days, the Big E weekend. Wow. How many of you were around for those? Was that a lot of fun or what? They always say, when you can turn your race or your football game or hockey game into more than just that and make it an event, you've done something. And thanks mostly to Fred, that was turned into just an incredible 3-4 days, from pancake breakfasts, lawnmower races, celebrity go-kart races. In the later years, you remember, it was almost like a fair midway here with rides and games. I'd often say, Andrew, it was like a carnival-like atmosphere, because it really was. And then we'd finish up the pre-race festivities with the big parade on Saturday. Unfortunately, Stormy Glick couldn't be here with us tonight, but Stormy would always give me the use of the pace truck numerous times during the year. But that Saturday of Big E weekend, back when before Mike Hotel stayed beyond Suites, most of the race teams stayed down in Montesano. So I drive the pace truck down there and lead all the Outlaw rigs back through town, and there's some video out there of that, and it was, as I said, that was a real big deal. We get back here to the track, and then have the celebrity go-kart race, and then go racing. But it's nice that so many of you do remember those days. But yeah, so those were the big ones that I was here for. Evergreen State Challenge, which later became the Fred Bradfield Memorial, and the Outlaw race. Okay, now, Jay, Vern, Reagan, a number of you guys here, you're gonna want to hear some of these racing memories, on-track memories. Okay, let's go 1996. Again, that was my first time back here in 1991. April 13th, don't ask me how I remember the exact date. I think it's Will Kennedy's birthday, actually, Andrew. April 13th, 1996, an historic night, the first race in Northern Sprint Tour history. How many of you were here? Quite a few of you. It had rained all week. Bert, you can relate to this, Roger. It had rained all week, surprise, surprise. The pits were unusable. We pitted out by the horse barns. to that today as I was rolling around, reeling the memories. Hit it out by the horse barns. Threatened to rain all night, but it didn't. Ricky Farmer won the first race in NST history over Todd Heikus and Eddie Evans. And that set the stage for, George, you remember that? That set the stage for 11 great years, didn't it? Remember the name of the track? At that point, Elma National Raceway was the name. Sean, right? Elma National Raceway. So that was in April, and then in August it was World of Outlaws. And I remember Fred had ads going during the Daytona 500 that year. The biggest race. He had an announcer voice guy, it wasn't me. The biggest race in the history of the Elma National Raceway is coming this August. It was great advertising during the Daytona 500, and tickets are on sale now at 1-800 Brownfield Promotions. So, as big a deal as it was when the Outlaws came back to Skagit, Roger Lane, you remember that, in 1994, 1995. It was just as big a deal in 1996, bringing the biggest names in sprint car racing to Little Elma, Washington. That's a big deal. Steve Kidder, Sammy Swindell, Dave Blaney, Andy Hillenberg go down the list. So that's August of 96. Sammy Swindell wins the first night, Dave Blaney wins the second night. That was pretty special in 96. 1998, jumping ahead to 1998. Jay, the first year of Speed Week, 1998. We're coming into the final line here at Elma, and Jason Sowold's leading the Speed Week points, and he's running away with the main event. Remember what happened next? Anybody remember what happened? About 5 or 10 laps to go, going down the front straightaway. I can see it like it happened yesterday. The wing blows off the car. Not the front wing, the top wing. And like a half lap lead on the field, he had it on cruise control. There goes the wing, there goes the Every Race Day Challenge, and there goes his Speed Week Championship. Mike Kading inherits the lead and wins his only NST race and his only Speed Week Championship. That was in 98. George, you remember that, don't you? Andrew, were you here for that one? Sean? Huh? Sean's checking what's going on at Chico right now. Any updates who won the Outlaw race tonight? Do we know? Huh? So that was 98. 2000, 2001, how am I doing for time, Andrew? All right, Rick? I'm okay. 2000, 2001, 2002. You remember the dominance of that 7N car from California? Who was the driver? Roger Henderson was the owner. Who was the driver? Steve Kent, the 7N. They dominated. They won every Every Challenge and Speed Week 3 years in a row, 2000, 2001, 2002. 2004. Big year. The brand new state-of-the-art Grays Harbor Raceway. 2004 is the first year, and wow, what a racing facility, what a palace. I was out there this morning, got up early, out there an hour and a half, that's why I'm a little sunburned, just roaming around, admiring the facility, and what a beautiful place it still is. Bert, thank you for all you continue to do to keep this place going concern, keeping the tradition going, and just all the great memories. But that was something. Truly one of the nicest facilities in all of North America. The racetrack itself, but it wasn't just the track. The lighting, the sound system, the concessions, the VIP suites that are still beautiful. One of the first Northwest tracks to actually have VIP suites, luxury suites, and a new announcing scoring tower, and just a gorgeous facility. And Fred worked so hard with a lot of local help. I know a lot of people helped locally to make it happen. But I'll never forget, it was 2003, the end of Speed Week. We'd been going all week, and we checked out the Hotel Sunday. For some reason, I wanted to come to the track and just have a look around on the Sunday morning. After a crazy busy Speed Week, me and my brother coming up to the track, on a hot Sunday afternoon, one guy out there working by himself, like you were today, Bert. You had some people there, but in a lot of days, it's you, and it was Fred there, all alone on a hot Sunday afternoon, getting that track ready for opening night in '04. And I know it's so much around here. The number 92 is everywhere, and the yellow, black, and white colors put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this place. And yeah, that's a memory that I'll never forget. So that led into 2004, the fast, action-packed, big 3/8s. Ricky Farmer won the first 2 NST races, sweeping the Evergreen State Challenge, and then surprise, surprise, Steve Kinzer, the first one to adapt the best to the new track. Nobody had ever raced on it before. The King, Steve Kinzer, wins both nights. One other kind of a funny story from that year, it was actually, I think it was opening night. I come down here for the regular Saturday night show because I wanted to see the first race on the new track, and Phil Martelli, the long time, tremendous voice of Grace Harbor Raceway. Again, he spends his winters down south, so he'll be here tonight. We're talking about how great, the new facility is. And I said, amidst, like I said, the track, the lighting, the sound system, the suites, I said, and now, there's no more horse track, so you fans are right on top of the action. I guess there were some horse people in the crowd that night, and they kind of took it the wrong way. I didn't mean any disrespect. I just remember the old days, the track was quite away from the grandstand, whereas now you're right on top of the action. But some of the horse people were to, George, you remember that? But anyway, I digress. So that was 04, that was 2004, and now I look ahead to 2006. I can stand up here and talk about a lot of things all night. You guys that know me, and girls that know me, know that I can do that. How am I doing for time, Andrew? All right. 2006. Oh my goodness, as I really do get serious here for a moment, it truly was the best of times and the worst of times. The absolute ultimate highs for so many of us, and then the lowest of lows. I'll never forget the phone call I got from a friend in December. Damn it. Salty discharge. The phone call I got from Fred in December of 05. I knew he was working on things, but I didn't know if it was going to happen that year or not. It's official. We're going national, the National Sprint Tour. And I often say, it would have been neat as a fan to follow things along that year and see how it all progressed. But to be actively involved as the announcer, it really took it to a different level. And to watch it growing, we had our Northern Sprint Tour. We were known in the Northwest, but to take it nationally, this was a whole new ball game. Going to California, going to Iowa, going to Ohio, to Pennsylvania, where sprint car racing was so big. And to see it growing, it was growing by leaps and bounds, and the future was just incredibly bright. And then all of a sudden, in June, we lose Fred here during Modified Nationals weekend. And to say the state of sprint car racing nationally and locally changed in that moment would be a massive understatement. I wrote a letter to National Speed Sport News at the end of that year, and because it was kind of weird how the new owners just kind of let it fade away. No one said a final thank you, so I took it upon myself. And the last paragraph that I wrote in Speed Sport News just simply said, I can guarantee all of you one thing: if we had not lost Fred, not only would the National Sprint Tour have continued for many years, it would have thrived for many years, and unfortunately the sprint car world will never know what could have been. Signed, Fred Ryan. So, and really there's a lot of similarities going on this year with High Limit, the sprint car series, and what Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet are doing. A lot of similarities to what they're doing now, what we were going through in 2006. So, as I said, I was not here few weeks later for the memorial service, and I couldn't help thinking about that day today with this incredibly hot weather that we had today, how hot it was. Remember how hot it was here that day? And I think it was 92 degrees for the memorial service, which was a huge crowd. 92 degrees in June, unheard of for these parts. But obviously a tremendously sad day for all of us. Phil Martelli did an outstanding job as MC that day. So glad you still got him around Bert because he's a legend in these parts. Sean, I know you'd agree. Sean fills in when Phil can't be here. But yeah, Phil did a great job as MC that day, and that was not easy. It was just so emotional. One of Fred's daughters spoke, his brother-in-law spoke, and it was just Dick Wilski and myself. That was it for speakers that day. And apart from when I had to speak at my father's funeral, that's the toughest speech I ever had to give that day, because Fred wasn't just somebody I was working for. He was my favorite driver one of my favorite drivers when I was a kid. I was fortunate enough to announce in the late 80s, early 90s some of his wins and championships up in Skagit, and then end up working for him. So it was an incredibly hard hit for a lot of us, and myself, of course. But we had to somehow pick up the pieces and continue, because that, of course, is what he would have wanted us to do. So, Mike, Andrew, what's going on here? Andrew, you bring Mike, is that for me? Is that for me? No, that's okay. Mike?
Well, there's a little bit of chow over there. They should be over there and get eating it up.
Well, there you go. There you go. Food and drink. Right on. Mike Evans, ladies and gentlemen, a.k.a. the Animal. Second time he's been. Andrew, that is trying to respond. Was that staged earlier? No? Anyway, as I say, we lose Fred, but we had to venture on, both the National Sprint Tour and the Northern Sprint Tour. So it's Speed Week, time for Speed Week now in July. Travis, he touched on it earlier. So we race in Oregon Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then we come here for Evergreen State Challenge. And the star-studded field that weekend. Casey Kane was here, Jason Sines was here, Roger Crockett, Steve Kent, all the other stars. And the front row Saturday night, it was Casey Kane and Jason Sines. But at the end of the night, and again, keeping in mind that we just lost Fred, we all around here needed some kind of pick-me-up. And on Fred's home track, one of his hometown boys, right over there, Jay Cole, won it. And he didn't start on the front row. The front row, as I said, was Casey and Sines. And Jay, I am telling you, my friend, that was pretty special. That was pretty special. A lot of us, we needed that. I've always said the 92 Dirt Cup that Bobby Burrow won was the most emotional I've ever been as an announcer. But that was very close. Very close. Jay Cole, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm up in the booth, and that's one of the races that is on YouTube now. In fact, I watched it this past week, just to kind of jog the memory.
I need a fork.
So I'm losing my voice, going crazy up in the tower. Surprise, surprise. Phil is going to interview him. Phil's getting choked up. And then Jay gets out of the car. Travis Brady is right there. Stormy Glick is right there. Dick Wilski, I remember, was right there. All the crew, of course. So I'm going bananas upstairs. Phil is almost losing it downstairs. There's old Jay. Cool is the other side of the pillow, Andrew. You forgot about that one. Cool is the other side of the pillow. Cool is a cucumber. Cool is the air conditioning in Walmart and everything today. Yeah, it was a big win, but the coolest dude around in the winner's circle. How many of you were here that night? So that was July. That was July. And now we get into August, and as I say, a lot of similarities to when we were going with the National Sprint Tour in 06 and what High Limit is doing right now going against the Outlaws this year. But I've looked at the schedules pretty closely. Sean, Andrew, George, I don't believe that the two series are going head-to-head in the same marketplace. I don't think at all this year, are they? So, think back. Vern, Ryan, Mike Evans, Jay, George. The National Sprint Tour is in Elma. The World of Outlaws are in Skagit. The same 2 nights. Some of the media were calling it the Battle of Seattle, if you remember. And that is, you remember. Pretty, competition is what makes the world go. That's some pretty stout competition right there, George. One of the cool surprising things, both tracks had great fields of cars, like over 40 cars at both tracks. I like to think we had better quality, a little better quality down here, but that's just me. But that was something. Head to head, the same 2 nights, and like I say, I don't think that's happening anywhere on their schedule this year. So that was 2006. We get through it, and I'll head now to 2008. Vern, how am I doing? One of the best sprint car racers to come out of Washington in the Northwest, Jamie Barnes. How about it for Jamie? 2-time Dirt Cup champion, 3rd generation driver, 2-time Dirt Cup champion. The first champion in the ACS Northwest history. He's won races in the US, in Canada, and in Australia. Not many guys can say that. So in 2008, Jamie Barnes he's never won a World of Outlaw race. And he's leading here at Grays Harbor. You never know when that opportunity is going to come around again. He's leading most of the race. He'll love me for telling this, but as I say, an incredible resume is what so many. With about, I want to say, 10 laps to go-ish, he slipped up a little bit once coming off of turn number 4, opened the door. Craig Kinzer, who was driving for Tony Stewart at the time, the number 20 car, stepped by on the inside and went on to win. Jamie, 2nd place, incredible run, so proud, but that's the one that got away. And I know I asked him once, do you celebrate those Dirt Cups and the ACS Championship, the wins in 3 different countries, more, or do you dwell on the one that got away without any hesitations? No, I'm proud of my accomplishments, but I think about that one that got. Anyway, still 2nd place, still a great run, but just not close. 2008. I talked about the first Northern Sprint Tour race ever here in 96, and the first World of Outlaw race. In 2009, it was pretty special here when ASCS National Series came to the Northwest for the first time. They'd never come west of the Rockies before. Gary Wright, Tim Crawley, Zach Chappell, the late great drivers Jason Johnson and Jesse Hockett. Most of them had never been, not just to Grays Harbor Raceway, had never been to the Northwest before. That was very special, having all them here. Andrew, again, someone, Gary Wright, one of the all-time greats in the history of the sport. Now, that was the Edinburgh Speedway when it was the NCS National. That was the Fred Brown Field Memorial race. Does anybody remember what happened? That Roger Crockett won the first night. Jay, do you remember what happened the second night? Roger Crockett looks like he swept the weekend. He came out like 4 pounds light at the scales. Crockett disqualified. Travis Riley got the $10,092 victory. That was a tough pill to swallow, obviously, for Roger and the crew. But that was 2009. Jason Johnson, as I said, again, God rest his soul, swept both nights here in 2010 with the National Series and the Fred Brown Field Memorial. And as I say, Jesse Hawkins was here as well, and God bless both of them. So 2011, again, that was my last year here, and the only time that the end of Speed Week, when it was ever a state challenge of the Fred Brown Field Memorial, was surprisingly at Elma, rained out, 2011. And Bert, we were talking about this today. Kyle Larson was here. He finished second in Medford, second in Coos Bay, second in Cottageville. He was tired of finishing second, so he won the Thursday night at Willamette. We said, see you tomorrow. He said, looking forward to getting to Grays Harbor. Rained out, so he is scheduled to be here this year for the Highland race. Huh? Tentatively scheduled to be here, so that'll be something. But yeah, so yeah, how about that here in Elma that we got rained on that weekend? Can't tell you how many times through the years I've been down I-5, get to Olympia still with the sunglasses on and start heading west. A little darker, and a little darker, and a little darker. But we persevered. Jay, how am I doing for time? I told Rick I'll be done by 8:30. Okay, who wants to hear a few of the off-track stories, huh? Some of the other shenanigans, huh? Okay, you're going to hear it whether you want to or not. Trev Wilson. This might involve you. Okay. Off-track metro memories. Lunches with Stormy and Phil. Dinners with Fred and Debbie. Ocean Shores on the Thursday during Speed Week. We're all out there one year. George, I'm not sure you were there, a lot of our ST crew. Myself, Mark Houston, Steven Allard, Soul, we're in the go-kart track in Ocean Shores. So you know where this is going. We're asked to leave. Repeated, not one or two, repeated violations by all of us, most of us, for rough driving. Surprise, surprise. I was actually leading the race on the last lap. So anyway, we're kicked out of the go-kart track, so we head to the beach. We're playing frisbee and football and messing around. Dick Wilski was there with us. Dick was getting jammed and living out of Ocean Shores at the time. So it's getting to be around lunchtime, and Dick says, you know what, we got some great seafood out here at Ocean Shores. I'm buying today. I'll be right back. So Dick takes off. 20 minutes later, he comes back. Big bags of food under both arms. He comes in, what? McDonald's? What? Dick brought back 25 or 30 filet of fish sandwiches. That was his Ocean Shores seafood. But it was classic. And we later found out that those filet of fishes came from Iowa. Transported to Ocean Shores. So that was something. We used to do that out there at the beach on the Thursdays. Rainouts at the bowling alley. Henry, is it true that you secretly hope for rainouts some nights? Huh? No, you'll never admit to it anyway, Bert. You'll never admit to it. Anyway, a lot of those stories I can't tell, but I'll just generalize. I see some ears perking up now all of a sudden. Huh? Yeah, I might name some names here. Okay, first of all, you go to bowling, and most people aren't in a very good mood at first. Because the race has been laid out. Drivers, crews, fans, you get there. And as So yeah, not a good. But then Henry jumps behind the bar, starts pouring the drinks. The singles turn to doubles, the doubles turn to triples. The music gets a little louder, the conversation gets a little louder. Next thing, Jay and this guy show up. You know, they've already had a few before they even get there. Next thing you know, you can't move, you can't hear. Grace Harbor County, they love bragging about their scenery and the wildlife around here. No. The bowling alley after a rain out, that, my friends, is Grace Harbor wildlife. Trev? Jay? Some people say I exaggerate some stories once in a while, but I don't think so. You like that story today about, and Kyle Larson, well, we won't say how old he was at the time, but he was there in 2011 when we were all there. Richie Peterson from Montana. I'll never forget, I'm standing there talking to, I'm not a very big guy myself, I'm standing there talking to Roger Crockett. Some of these guys heard this story already. Roger Crockett and Gary Tippett, we're all pretty little guys. Richie Peterson, pulling a China shop, Grace Harbor, Great Falls, Montana. He comes to try and give me a hug, stumbles at the last second, and into me, sacking the quarterback, knocks me over, knocks Crockett and Taylor over. It was like human bowling, and we were in the bowling alley. All thanks to Richie Peterson. So that was, Harry, are we headed there tonight, Larry? If I shut up, we can wrap this thing up and then get over there. I think I've got 10 more minutes. Okay, so, I think a few of you heard this. Roger and Lane, I think I told you, this happened not far from where you guys live. So, I'm dating this girl in Olympia, and at first she loved the racing. Guys, a lot of you guys now will be able to relate to this. At first she loved the racing. She thought this is pretty cool. Something new, high speeds, drama, yada yada. But then, maybe not so much. Things are, a little, think about going. Anyway, we're in a place one day, and she says, hey guys, you can relate. If you spend as much time with me as you do out on that blank racetrack, things might be going a little better between us. Well, I wasn't in the mood to listen that day. Grabbed my bag, as I'm out the door, as I'm heading down the stairs, I realized I left my car at the track the night before. No cell phones then. Well, there's no way I was doing the walk of shame back in there. So I walk into Tumwater/Olympia, and I see a bus stop. Well, it was still early in the day, it was racing that night. I took the bus from Olympia through McCleary, very convenient, dropped me off right up here. They said I could run, I think, all the way to Aberdeen or Hopewood if I wanted to. So, Grace Harbor County Transit, thumbs up. When we first started coming here, 7 minutes left, there was no microtel, stay beyond suites now. When we first started coming here in 96, we stayed, first couple of years, George, you remember, a couple of random places in Aberdeen, a couple of random, George, you might say, sketchy places in Aberdeen. You wondered if Clark was going to be there in the morning sometimes. Anyway, that didn't last long. And then, for most of the years, it was the Monty Square in Montesano, which was quite convenient. And then when the microtel opened here, it was here. But the Monty Square, it wasn't. What's it called now? Monty Square, Best Western? Guest house. Sean, is that right? Guest house. It wasn't unsafe. It wasn't dirty. It was just kind of old. One time we got back to the room. After the races, somebody was in our room. But our luggage was still there. So our luggage was still there. There's other people there, but they hadn't done anything about that. Anyway, the most, I don't know how many of you ever stayed. How many of you stayed there? Monty Square. The strangest thing was they didn't have regular office hours. Not 24-hour office hours, I think 7 in the morning, 10 at night. So a lot of the times, we're coming from the east, so we didn't have time to go and check in before the race. So, just picture this. Friday or Saturday nights, George, and we were there together. Friday or Saturday nights, 1, 2 in the morning, where you checking in. There's no office. You gotta go over to the gas station and check in there. Friday, Saturday night, people buying gas, people buying snacks, people buying beer that have already had a few. Interesting to say the least. This one night though, I remember clearly, it was at least 2 a.m. There's a guy in front of me buying a fishing license and propane. 2 a.m. I just want my room key. Just want to get to bed. True story. I'm 30 minutes. I'm there 30 minutes. Then, when he finally leaves, she just hands me the key. No signing, nothing, no, nothing. So you couldn't have figured out that 30 minutes, I'm not kidding. Then, if you can believe it, Sean, did I tell you this? In the later years, not only did you have to go to the gas station on a Friday, Saturday night with drunk kids buying booze, you had to buy something in order to check in to get your key. So, you normally just buy a candy bar, a pack of gum. Dale's Smith from Cottage Grove. He bought some freaking nicotine gum or something, like $25. $25 for a pack of gum just to get checked in at the hotel. So that was Sonoma Square. Due to reservation mix-ups, etc., also stayed in a couple other places. Travis, where's Travis? Where are you, buddy? Stayed with Trav a couple of times, huh? Can't tell many of those stories. There's some Grace Harbor wildlife in there too, don't kid yourself. Stayed there a couple of nights, thank you, buddy. Good times. I won't tell the Montana story. I don't have all time for the Hooters story. Stayed there a couple times. Remember the Parkhurst Motel? I noticed it's still there, but it's a different name. I stayed there one time, but not in the motel. Stayed in the owner's house. That was interesting. And memories today, again, just reservation mix up. Wanted to save Fred a couple of bucks. I slept in the tower at the track one night. And let me stress, this is the new tower, not the old tower. I only got to sleep in the old tower. Anyway, grabbed a sleeping bag and a pillow, and I remember I slept like a baby. The only thing was I dreamt about Phil Martelli all night. But yeah, some of those off-track stories, good times. Restaurants around here, again, a list. We used to love the steak dinners at Bridges in Aberdeen. I'm not sure if it's still there. Jordan and Ed, I remember we were there together one night for steaks at Bridges, and we all went for 15 of us or so, 15 or 20 of us. We walked by the water afterwards at Bridges. Beehive Restaurant in Montesano, I went to check it out today. It's still there. Used to like the breakfasts and the lunches at the Beehive. Anyway, it is that time. Thank all of you for listening. I just want to wrap up by saying that I said this a little bit ago in the Vancouver Motorsports Hall of Fame too. I've always loved racing, but I've really always loved the people in racing. And let's not kid ourselves. This is a crazy, messed up world we're living in right now. You just turn on the news every day, you don't know what you're going to see. I've always loved racing, the people are racing, but I appreciate all of you more now than I ever have because of this world we're living in. So thank you all for the memories. So many of you here are some of my best friends. Continue to support Bert and Roger and everyone here at the Grace Harbor Raceway. Thumbs up, all the best for a great season this year and years moving forward. Even though I'm not down here, I follow things closely from a distance. Big thumbs up. I know there's not a long list of people lining up to be racetrack owners these days. And to Rick and Wendy and the Badgets and everybody with the Hall of Fame, thank you. And for all of your hard work. Andrew, I think I did it by 8:30, buddy. And over to you for the rest of the evening. Enjoy the rest of the evening, folks, here, and we'll see you at the bowling alley later, right, Henry? All right, thanks, everyone.
All right, Fred Barrett Jr., everyone. Oh, they are supposed to be together? Oh. Pick one.
You want mine? Uh-oh, we got ticket time?
Door prize 959079. What's this for? So for the door prize there, 959079. So if you have that ticket there, go see Wendy over there.
It could be.
So before we continue, just one little thing about Fred. So we all know his catchphrase here. One night I'm up at Skagit and I'm announcing dwarf cars and Fred shows up. He's in the back of the tower here. And I decided to start the main event. He's 5 feet away. And knowing Fred here, I knew this would get a little rise out of him here. And I decided to say, well, shorten his bit here a bit, but right as I take the green flag, I say back down the hatches and lock the door. Things are about to get wild, dwarf car style. It's in a more excited manner here. And Fred is right there. And I started calling the first couple of laps of the race, but naturally, those who know Fred here, you know that Fred was just beside himself for his talking material for the next 30 minutes after the races were over. But Fred was a mentor of mine. I'm very proud to have introduced him here this evening. Like I said, a mentor. Oh, here we go again.
Surprise, surprise, one more thing. I told you the story about Don McLeod in 1974, winning 2 of the 3 races during the Dirt Cup, including the race here. Today's world, he would have been the Dirt Cup champion. I had no idea. One of the all-time greats, sprint car, dirt or pavement drivers, is here with us tonight. Right there, Don McLeod, everybody, out of Tacoma. Wow. Great to see you, man. Great to see you, Andrew. And as I say, Don McLeod, Jerry Day, Dick Wilski, go down the list. That's why we're here today still. Awesome to see you, Don.
Welcome, Don. Thank you, Fred. All right, time to introduce all our inductees here. And after each of our 7 inductees are introduced here, we will have Rick come up here and present this Boone Distinguished Service and Bramfield Exemplary Contribution Awards. So don't leave right away here. So our first inductee, I just mentioned Fred Barrett Jr. is a mentor of mine. This inductee was a mentor of mine also, so we're very excited to talk with him and introduce him here tonight. This inductee was never a race car driver, nor was he a crewman, but before the days of the internet, he had one of the most important racing jobs out there, telling the story. First though, he didn't grow up in a racing family, but was a casual fan. From Tacoma, he went to Seattle University before moving down to Arizona, where he discovered sprint car racing during its golden age in the mid to late 1960s. Seeing Jerry McClung, Bob Kleberg, and others will around the famed Manzanita Speedway in Phoenix. He saw the legendary Western World Championship in its early years and watched as Arizona's talented bunch of local racers elsewhere. He was hooked. He then moved to San Jose, California, and saw super modifieds race the high banks at San Jose Speedway. He had no preference for dirt or asphalt, but he did continue to develop one other real strong preference, open wheel. Meanwhile, his dad had a car dealership back home in Tacoma, first selling Studebakers and then getting involved with Toyota. After returning home to the Northwest, our inductee got involved in the family business and actually took a step back, seeing just a couple of races in 1972. But both were special events. The International Drivers Challenge Series event at Spanaway, and again he went back to Phoenix to watch the Western World. In 1973, WMRA owner Jim Kidder came into the store trying to get help on running a Toyota motor in his midget on the WMRA circuit. After agreeing to a sponsorship, our inductee started following WMRA at Spanaway, Tenino, and Sky Valley. Over the next couple of years, he spent most summer weekends in the grandstands at midget and sprint car shows. In 1976, he got more involved with Hap Kemp, signed him up as a day sponsor for Gary Patterson at the Dirt Cup. Later that year, the dealership sponsored a driver for a weekend in September. That driver won twice with Temple Toyota on his car, taking checkered flags at Skagit and Sky Valley. His name was Jerry Day. That started a sponsorship program that lasted until he sold Temple Toyota, and a friendship that lasts to this day. While that was happening, something perhaps even more important happened. Attending a WMRA race at Spanaway, the local track announcer had trouble keeping up with the ultra-fast midgets, and our inductee offered to help spot cars for him. Instead, the announcer just handed him a microphone. Here, you call these guys. Apparently it went well enough that as he started to travel around with WMRA to some of their other events elsewhere, and the Northwest's newest announcer was at work. In 1979, Northwest Sprint Cars was founded with drivers such as Day, Cecil Walker, and Keith Jensen all involved, seeking a standard minimum purse for their races around the region. And through Jerry Day, our inductee got involved with them also, doing some announcing and also writing race reports. And doing a little bit of travel with them. One of those traveling events being what supposedly was the first ever true sprint car race at Cottage Grove, Oregon, happening before an overflowing house of spectators. In the club's initial year, it ran 2 shows, the Elma Half Mile, and later the club ran several programs on the new 3/10 mile dirt track in Elma. He also tried his hand at promoting, doing so for a year at Tenino with a partner. That experience that year, however, made him decide it was perhaps not the best thing for him to do. While doing all that, he was writing articles and sending them out to all the racing print media, this being before the internet was around and long before information was instantly on one's cell phone. His race reports for various tracks and series appeared in publications such as National Speed Sport News and enormously popular on the West Coast up into the 2000s, Racing Wheels, for which he also wrote a column. He was still a big fan and read everything that was happening. He then announced regularly at Spanaway Speedway for a time. Already doing the open wheel divisions, they had him start announcing the other fender classes also. Even though he was really an open wheel guy, he didn't mind too much as this kept him out of the beer garden. He meanwhile continued announcing and doing PR for both WMRA and WRA. In the mid-1980s, he was approached by Rebel Jackson Sr. and Dan Craver to help with the transition of the new series. He did PR and bookkeeping for the USAC Washington Super Modified series that ran for a brief time. After USAC pulled out of the Northwest and other regions, he, Kirk Kerr, and Rebel Sr. formed and started the new Northwest Super Modified Racing Association series in the Northwest. The first 2 years of NSRA were among his favorite, as he saw the Jacksons, Rebel Sr. and Jr., the Hamilton family, and the Skiba family, and Pat Russell's Boise team all in action around the Northwest speed plants. The 1990s came, and attention turned to family as he was a father of a few young children, including a son who was starting to play football. He decided to cut back a bit on racing to support his kids' efforts, but he was still frequently attending races, especially at Elma. His involvement didn't end either. Over in Knoxville, Iowa, the new National Sprint Car Hall of Fame, sitting behind Turn 2 of the famed Knoxville Raceway, was now in operation, and our inductee was on the voting committee that first year and remained there as part of the process of immortalizing sprint car racing's greatest participants until stepping away after voting for the class of 2024. He also got involved with the Tacoma Pierce County Sports Hall of Fame and helped get a few racing individuals in there as well. He continued announcing from time to time, announcing WMRA midgets at Stanway or NSRA sprint cars elsewhere. He also tagged along for a Northern Sprint Tour Ski Week in the early 2000s doing trackside announcing. It was then that he decided it was time to put the microphone away for track activities. He continued writing though, and since the internet and Facebook have come around, he is frequently sharing online old racing photos and results from events now long ago, reigniting memories for many and providing a look for the younger crowd into how things once were. For his long involvement with the WMRA midgets, he has received a gold card from them, indicating lifetime membership and good standing with one of the oldest racing organizations in the country. In 2009, he had what he considered one of his proudest moments, as he was honored when asked by the board of directors to MC the first Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame ceremony. While it was the only one he did, he was proud to have done it and has attended several ceremonies since then. He still heads to the track from time to time and keeps tabs on all that is happening in the racing world, but otherwise, he's a proud family man, just celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary with his wife and marking his children's accomplishments in adulthood, including his now grown son being an assistant coach and recently winning a state football championship in Georgia recently. While traveling the main Northwest tracks, he was always fond of being at Elma, loving the grassroots feel of the place early on, then marveling at seeing the late Fred Brownfield build the place up into something more. He looks back fondly though on the days of the old half mile, which was fast, dusty, fans sometimes couldn't see what was happening, and you never knew what was going to happen out there, and seeing the likes of Jerry Day and Don McLeod wave that racetrack. He never raced nor crewed, but in addition to his most proud roles as family man, he wore so many hats. Fan, sponsor, promoter, announcer, writer, historian, bookkeeper, Hall of Fame voter, event host, advocate, and statesman. He is one who worked to share and spread the news and joy of racing around the Northwest, and later helped keep its history alive. Please join me in welcoming to the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, the Right Honorable Mr. Ed Williams.
I have noticed that, thank you, Andrew, but if people are introduced as the honorable, there's a pretty good chance they're not, so we'll start off with that. I would like to thank Ed and the committee for this. It's really, I think it's a great honor. I really enjoyed doing the first Hall of Fame introduction. This is something I thought it very unexpected. So, years ago I used to be a big newspaper guy. All kinds of newspapers. And one of my favorites was the San Francisco Chronicle. Excuse me. They had a column in there called The Fearless Spectator. And I kind of think that's sort of what I have been hanging around racing all these years. I've seen a lot of it, I've enjoyed a lot of it, and I'm really appreciative of it. So thank you very much.
Now the jackets have not been embroidered yet. The jackets are being given now just to make sure that they fit. They will be embroidered properly and present to the inductees at the July gathering that we'll have. Speaker of the British House of Commons here, it's like our House of Representatives here, told someone off basically who was misbehaving here that he should seek to imitate the Zen-like common statesmanship of the Father of the House, who is the longest serving member of Parliament. And granted, he was an announcer years back, but since I've known Ed, he's always, calm and statesman-like here. So I always thought, imitate his Zen-like calm and statesmanship here. And right honorable is a term used there, so that's why I refer to him as the right honorable Mr. Ed Williams here. And Ed, again, you were one of my mentors here. It is an honor to introduce you here this evening. Congratulations. Our next inductee, I got to watch him race. This inductee into the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame got his start back in the 1980s racing karts in South Dakota. In 1986, he came to the Great Northwest and took up residence in Washington State. In 1992, he started racing sprint cars and became a regular at the Elma dirt, then called Elma National Raceway, and he would do so for the next decade. Drivers like Vern Raymond took him under their wing in the early years as he learned the ways of sprint car racing. He enjoyed getting to know everyone on the track, and many people became like family to him. He also developed a good relationship with John Dickinson, who built his wings early on. In the meantime, he started getting fast and soon found himself up near the front and competing for wins on a regular basis at Grace Harbor Raceway. He didn't win that often, being modest about himself. He figures he has around 10 or 12 wins to his credit, but he was always a presence in racing near the front. His breakthrough was the 1999 season when he won 3 main events at Elma and won the 360 Sprint Car Track Championship that season, the biggest highlight of his racing career. He says his main rival was J. Cole, both on the track and at the bar after the races, seeing who could buy the most beers. He also enjoyed racing against other future Elma Hall of Fame inductees, including Raymond, Stormy Glick, Donnie Fry, Glenn Borden Sr., and Glenn Borden Jr. After suffering a neck injury, he knew it was time to hang up the fire suit after 10 years racing sprint cars. He also had a business to run. This inductee, however, was not done with his racing involvement. In 2006, he began a partnership with former track champion J. Cole, co-owning the car driven by Cole, and it took off from there, going to just this last year. They started off by winning the Evergreen State Sprint Challenge that season, Elma's signature sprint car race at the time, shortly after the sudden passing of Fred Brownfield in one of the most emotionally popular victories ever at Grace Harbor Raceway. It was, as he simply described it, a good night. From there, countless sprint car victories at Grace Harbor Raceway and an astounding 8 track championships again, including just last year. Those accomplishments will no doubt put J. Cole in the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame himself as a driver when his driving days are over. For the past 15 years, they have been among the best sprint car teams in the Pacific Northwest, while also getting help in the period from another 2024 inductee, Bill St. Paul. He's also stayed involved with his business, Bulldog Trailers, sponsoring some cars at the track, and also supporting the quarter midget races on the little track here at the Grace Harbor County Fairgrounds. He's really enjoyed his time in racing and said he's honored to receive this gesture. And he's also honored to be joining several of his friends he's raced with in this Hall of Fame. And without the support of his dad, Bob Wilson, and his better half, Amber, none of this would be possible. So please join me in welcoming the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, former sprint car champion, Trevor Wilson.
As long as we stay out of that halfway bar on the way home. Oh, we're stopping. Oh, I fucking knew it. Shit, I'm gonna get stupid.
Well, I definitely won't be here to watch Fred Rainer.
Yeah.
Speaking of Fred, I did have an instance with him down in
get down in this
Yes, one bike.
neighborhood very
And went down in
We're
the
up in
That's how I
Marysville,
met
but
Fred really well.
it's been running the fucking midget.
Thanks to Rick and the commission for this honor. It's a pleasure
Everything that
and a
can.
privilege. A lot of
Nationwide.
people I know as family and friends.
Anyway, I didn't come over. I've come over to
Like my
congratulate
family,
you
but you know that I
for
appreciate
your
you being here.
grandson.
Sister
Oh,
Lynn,
I am his
nephew
biggest
Devontae,
fan.
and Amber.
And that kid, you know what?
Through being with,
What I did
working with
was-
Jay through the years, I've met great people like Darren Hall and his wife Lori, Jay's wife Cindy.
But I'm trying to record.
I've met Vernon in
What I love about
probably about
Devin,
1992.
he didn't
I've
cut
only been
my
racing
request,
about 2 weeks.
and nothing against
I
like
told my car,
and stuff like
I know
that. Not
nothing about
knocking
fixing
them.
it. I'm a driver, I'm not a
Devin
mechanic.
went back to Pennsylvania.
He told me to bring the car to Lacey where he
That
lived.
fucking race
I did it
started.
in an afternoon, they had it
They've
fixed.
been
We drove the track
top
that
of the
night.
world forever. I mean,
That was a
all
great
the-
relationship with Vernon I started with, and to this day I still consider him a very close friend.
I am so proud of that kid.
I've known Glenn Ward and Glenn Ward Jr. for a long time, raced with him a long time, had moments with Glenn Sr. He remembers it.
Obviously, you.
I told him he was number one. He came and discussed it with me. We got over it. Since then, I've been good friends with his son for a
My
long
dad
time.
used to come down here
And
half mile
that's been a
here
good relationship with him as
and
well.
race all the time.
It's been an honor
My dad would not let
be
me
involved in this track for over 30 years now. And hopefully
You
we'll
can go out
finish
there
around.
and kill yourself.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm absolutely blessed to be here tonight, man. I mean, we drove 1,800 miles to get up here, man. And your name? Joe. Joe, my name is Mike Evans. Mike Joe Blow, out of Phoenix. And if you watch the Focus Midget, the Focus Midget, my son, and I'm bragging, but I'm good. You should. Yeah. Absolutely. But, I mean, he's won everything he's won. He's won every freaking. He's an all-time winner nationwide with 63 wins.
Congratulations, Trevor.
17 wins in one year, 16 wins in one season, 10 championships.
Our next inductee had a close relationship with the Leedy family, who've been an integral part of this Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame. Their history going back between the families several decades. From there, he was a constant presence at the racetrack until his passing this last year. Before he was old enough to enter the pit area, he was involved in the old Elma half mile, helping clean up after the races were over or helping run errands for the officials. Later, his father had the truck that pulled Rich Lee's trailer to the racetrack back then. Rich's son, Rick, wasn't old enough just yet, to be in the pit area like our inductee was, joining his father and Bruce Waters as pitman for the elder Leedy. He also crewed for future Elma Hall of Famer George Winston. In 1985, he drove his first race at the Elma dirt track, driving a hobby stock. In the late 1980s, though, he got his hands on Leedy's old semi-modified. He took the traditional Leedy purple and white car and painted it pink for it to stand out, though later ran in blue and white look. He ran with the Washington Open Wheel Series on the asphalt, regularly racing at Spanaway, Tenino, Port Angeles, and Evergreen. Though his wife Judy wasn't particularly a fan of him running on the big track at Evergreen back then. While racing got increasingly expensive, he was also ready to get out of the car as his daughters were growing up, and he decided best to focus on them. He stayed involved in racing though, and continued pitting for Rich and Rick Leedy. Back when white pants in the pit area was pretty much the law of the land everywhere, and even after it started to become a thing of the past, Judy made sure to regularly wash those white pants and have them ready for him to wear. He and family loved traveling to other races all around the Northwest just to watch also. Though they had hated having to drive through Seattle trying to get there, they made the effort to get to Skagit for Dirt Cup every year. After retiring from behind the scenes involvement after turning 60, he didn't retire from being at the racetrack. He was a constant presence Harbor Raceway, and more often than not, went down to the pit area afterwards to talk to the racers and show them his support. Having raced himself for a short time, he always appreciated what the race teams do and what the drivers are risking to race and entertain the fans who spend their hard-earned dollars to watch. It was nothing for him to be there past midnight, often talking with the racers, much to the chagrin of his wife. And when the drivers came to the grandstands for a helmet pass to help an injured driver, he always put some money in those helmets, every single time. He was always at the track. And in fact, the day before he went to the hospital for what sadly was the last time, he was at Grace Harbor Raceway attending the races. From his time as a kid helping clean the track grounds after the races, to crewing, to driving, to being one of the most supportive race fans you could find anywhere, his involvement in racing spanned 55 years. He always found a way to be a helping or involved presence of sorts, and for that he's earned this honor. When he was announced as an inductee last month, it generated an enormous positive response from the Elma racing community. With his family accepting on his behalf, please join me in welcoming to the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, Randy Hooper. Wife Judy accepting on his behalf. And these jackets have not been lettered yet. It's more of a test fitting, just a simple presentation here. They will be embroidered with the names and then represented at the spaghetti feed they'll have here in July.
Second, Mike was ahead of that.
Congratulations, Judy. Our next inductee, I've known him for a while, worked with him, butted heads occasionally, as happens between promoters and other people involved in the sport, but he's earned this honor. He has done a little bit of everything in racing. Racing has been in his family for generations. He remembers being 5 years old and going to the races at the old Sky Valley Speedway and watching the car his dad crewed be pounded around the track by Joe Bauer. As he grew older, his family got more involved at the track, including the Women's Auxiliary and the Sky Valley Cadet Corps, which got the kids, including our inductee at the time, involved. He worked at the Snack Shack and sold the latest edition of the Racing Wheels newspaper. It was how he stayed out of trouble as a youth. While attending those races at Sky Valley, he met many people, including members of the Barnes family and the Evans family. One by one, many of the people he knew began racing. Our inductee, though, left for school in Arizona. When he came back around 1980, Sky Valley was gone, but he followed in Dad's footsteps and crewed for Joe Bauer and his son-in-law at Evergreen. He later got his first taste of racing a car when Bauer let him drive his Jalopy, a 32 Coupe, in Elma around 1981. He then met Leo Voigt, who also let him drive his old Super Modified. He then got his own Super Modified, which was built at the Todd Shipyard in Seattle, of all places, from Lincoln Bolt. As it turned out, a number of race cars were built on the site there at the time instead of ships. One of his early run-ins with other racers was with a future Elma Hall of Famer named George Whitson, though he wasn't that aware of Whitson's standing as one of the big dogs in Elma at the time. One race saw them start side by side, and this inductee held his ground on the start, and they ended up making contact with our inductee running over Whitson's wheels, which caught everybody's attention. After that race in the pit area, Whitson approached him, and it turned out was impressed by the young driver holding his ground and standing up to him and showing that he would not be intimidated. One favorite memory of his came in 1982, one night in Elma, driving a semi-modified. Prior weather leading up to the event had left everyone with a very rough racetrack to race on. He went out for his heat race, survived it, and came back to the pits to discover that 3 out of 4 shocks on his car were broken. And stunningly, on this night, no one in the pit area had a welder. So he and his crewmen, thinking best to call it a night, loaded up the car. Rich Levy, however, convinced him that he should at least start the main event so he could get paid for the night. He went to the whiteboard to tell the official that he would start tail end of the feature, only to see the line posted and that he was scheduled to start on the pole position. He decided, why the hell not? Unloaded his car, and with only one working shock, started the main event. He was quickly passed by most of the field, but as the race went on, he started seeing other cars braking from the rough track condition, and one by one, he saw cars pulling off the racetrack until he eventually saw the white flag waiting for him as the leader, despite only one working shock. It was on that final lap when Rich Levy passed him for the win, after playing possum perhaps and following our inductee around the track for the entire race. Our inductee though said he was still finished second that night with just the one shock in the car he had, and Leedy was a friend and mentor to him as well. He started dabbing the old WRA, though interesting things happened later in 1983 when he hosted a meeting at his shop attended by people from all over the Northwest. He ended up being voted president of the new Washington Open Wheel, which featured semi-modifieds and sprint cars. They ran dirt and asphalt, running mostly Elma, and also other asphalt tracks, including South Sound and Spanaway. That season saw him gain the distinction of being the first driver to flip out of the ballpark at the then relatively new 3/10 mile track here in Elma. He was in contention for the title that season until he lost the motor at the season finale, a race that was won by Rick Leedy in Elma. Despite another flip out of the ballpark in '84, he competed well again that season, but decided to take a step back for a couple of years, only running occasionally in cars fueled by other individuals. He then, for a period, ran full-time at Skagit Speedway, driving a car owned by Rally Root before getting his own car again. Early in the 1990s, Skagit Speedway began to phase out the old economy modified class, and in 1992 started his new economy sprint car division, now the Sportsman Sprints. That first year, a new group spearheaded by our inductee, the Washington Econo Sprint Car Organization, or WESCO for short, was the sanctioning body of that division and did so through the 1994 season at Skagit. Starting in 1995, WESCO became a traveling series and hit the road, heading as far south as Oregon, including a race before a packed house in St. Helens, which had never seen sprint cars before, and also at the old Eugene Speedway. They ran at Elma several times that year as well, and along with several asphalt races. He was the series champion in 1995. He was also able to work with groups from elsewhere, including those from Wairika, California, and he would welcome them to their combo races in Oregon, including in Eugene. From 1995 to 1997, WESCO was a frequent visitor to Elma, often bringing strong fields of limited sprint cars. The track promoter at the time would often pick the top WESCO cars on a given night and have them take part in that night's 360 sprint car feature as well. WESCO continued to run for several years, and our inductee racked up 8 straight championships from 1998 to 2005, giving him 9 overall. After that, he got out of the race car and began promoting, running Port Angeles Speedway for 5 years before a single-year stint as race director at Evergreen Speedway. He jumped back into the dirt scene full-time, working the pits at Skagit Speedway for a couple of years, and then returned to Grays Harbor Raceway in 2014, working as the track operations manager under Steve Byler. When Steve Byler stepped aside in 2019, our inductee took over as promoter of Grays Harbor Raceway and has been here since then. In the past decade, being dedicated to Elma racing, he has received many accolades, including awards from the Western Auto Racing Promoters Association, such as the Miss America Easy Dedication Award in 2022, or 2021, I beg your pardon, and in 2022, winning the Reg Bigley Award for Promoter of the Year for the Timber Cup NARC Sprint Car Race at Graves Harbor Raceway, and now he can add one more title to his resume, Hall of Famer. Join me in welcoming to the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, Bert Johnson.
I didn't know Don McLeod was going to be here. I didn't recognize you, and I will say thank you. I want to share with a little story with Don. If anybody had the privilege of running down Spanaway Speedway, that's probably going to know where I'm going here. He's probably the only guy I ever knew that dirt tracked around that track on a continuous basis. Some nights he won, some nights they blew the tire before it got to the end, but you were thrilling to watch back then, so thank you very much. Did we lose Fred, or oh, there he is? So, Fred, I can out-talk you, I can guarantee you that, but I won't do that here. I did want to bring one thing for Rick here tonight, a little bit of memorabilia, and I got it sitting on the table. And I can recall, I don't recall exactly what it was either Christmas or my birthday, but my boys had got me a gift, and it was part of our uniform and stuff like that. So they'd ask me what to do with the old ones, and I said, well, hang on to them. Someday I might be in the Hall of Fame. Wow, here we are. So feel free to open that up, and let's have a good laugh with this one here. So that's the shoe that probably won me 4 or 5 championships, and you can see there's duct tape on that. That's kind of what I had to do back then, just to make ends meet, but basically it was the throttle foot, so it worked out pretty well for me. So, anyway, hope to meet some of you here afterwards, and thank you very much.
The shit we did as kids to make it work. Wet towels on the floorboard, rubbers off the clutch pedal.
I can remember when a good setup was, the tank was full and the tires all had air in them. Yeah.
So this is my son, Bruce. Many of you know that he also races, and so does my other son, Sean. But one thrill I will share with you guys, having stopped running probably, it was 2005, I think, was the last time I was in a car. They taught me to put my car back together. In 2016, we all went down to Cottage Grove, and what a thrill running with your boys.
Right on.
Congratulations, Bert. And again, having worked with many promoters here, I can tell you, and having put together a couple of races myself here, promoting is one of the most thankless jobs out there. So, Bert, congratulations, well earned. What makes a good flagman? You want to ask this 2024 inductee of the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame. He never drove a race car, but he had the lengthy career behind the scenes, or rather in front of everyone, letting everyone know when the race started and when it ended. He went to the races at the El Cajon, California track as a kid and got involved with the help of future Elma Hall of Famer, a race director by the name of Bob Valencia, who brought him into the pits. And at about age 15, he was helping to line up cars. Eventually, his family moved up to Washington, and he followed Valencia to the Elma dirt track, where he became an assistant flagman to Valencia in the mid-1990s. At the time, the young man had not been to any other Northwest racetracks, just Elma. Fred Brownfield, meanwhile, had taken over promoting at the newly renamed Graves Harbor Raceway Park and took an immediate liking to the younger assistant flagger. After Brownfield's Northern Sprint Tour had been running for a couple of years, our inductee asked if he could tag along at some of their races elsewhere, and Brownfield, having something up his sleeve, responded in the affirmative. Fred and his wife Debbie picked him up in Tumwater one day on their way south to Oregon. Arriving at Southern Oregon Speedway in Medford for the Star Speed Week, he was figuring that he would be helping sell programs or some other small task, as Brownfield otherwise had his staff around. He was stunned, however, when he was instead handed a brand new set of flags and was told that he was going to be the head flagman that night. It was his first time in that role, but Brownfield liked his prior work at Elma and decided it was time to elevate him to the new role and had him flag the entire week. When not traveling with NST, he continued to work at Elma on a weekly basis. Valencia was moved to race director, and the young assistant flagman was now controlling the race in the standard Grace Harbor Raceway, the role he would carry for several years. Between early 2003 and 2004, Grace Harbor Raceway underwent a massive renovation project, which saw the track lengthen to its current size. A new flag stand was also built for an inductee. A year after it was first built, though, a stabilizing bar was installed because it was, as he said, wobbly. In addition to NST races, Brownfield would also have him flag a handful of World Outlaw races he promoted in the Northwest every year. He had a few sets of flags, but had one checkered flag he would wave only at those World Outlaws events. Each night he had the winning driver sign that flag, and several drivers over the years would do so, including Craig Kinzer after he won his first career World of Outlaws victory at Cottage Grove Speedway in 2004. His other checkered flag would be signed by various other winning race car drivers over the years as well. He gave those checkered flags to the Brownfield family for display at the memorial service after Fred's sudden 2006 passing, but the flags disappeared, thought to be lost forever. However, they turned up 15 years later, found by none other than Jim Dennis, a predecessor in the flag stand tour inductee, who happily returned the flags to him. In 2008, the new ASCS Northwest Region Sprint Car Tour started and ran for several years, with our inductee again serving as the head flagman. In the later years of the series, however, he decided to take on a new role as race director, and in 2014, he ran the series itself as his promoter and coordinator. It was a big change. In the past, he had looked to Brownfield or Valencia for guidance, but now it was his time to make the big decision. It was new, different, and a challenging experience for him. It was also a new experience for now having to speak publicly at banquets in front of large groups of people. After that, he took a step back, but still fondly looks back at his day as a flagman. There were mistakes here and there, but he always remembered compliments. Perhaps the biggest one he got coming from Shauna Wilski, who compared him to the famed Knoxville Raceway flagman Doug Clark, who, by the way, is in the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame as a flagman. Like many, he best remembers his time in racing for all the friends he made, and many of them became family to him. He met his wife at the racetrack also. He always looked forward to Saturday nights at the track, enjoying good weather that allowed for racing, or still talking with everyone if a rainout happened. So what makes a good flagman? Our inductee says, watch the whole track, don't just follow the leader, know the rules, and sidebar, a really solidified set of rules help also. Pay attention, of course know racing in general, and be fair to everyone, even your friends. And know, to be fair to everyone, he's earned his place here. You all join me in welcoming to the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, Travis Bailey.
Like I said, I love public speaking, and all my friends know that. So friends stole a lot of my time, and I had a big old list of things to say. Just like to thank all my friends that got me into this. Fred, that helped me start my career. It's been a great time in my life. Like I said, I got to meet my wife at the racetrack. She's still with me to this day. I think this is our second time we make it together. The first one was our first date in Yakima when we first met it. And quick story with the Denny's that night with Jake Cole and his whole race team and all that. I needed a date the next day for the banquet, so I had her come. Told her it was a big deal, it was a sprint car hall or a sprint car banquet and all that. She dressed up all crazy. Got there in a bunch of dirt track races, didn't look so pretty. But it's a great honor to be inducted to this. There's so many great legends in this sport that I'm going to share this, and I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much.
And I've done several of these now, and I've always interviewed the inductees or representing family members on the phone, but this was the first time I actually got to interview someone in person here. He was over in my neck of the woods in Coeur d'Alene on business here, and we actually met up for dinner and beers. You know, I got to interview him in person, that was the first. Very neat experience to do that. There, congratulations, Travis, well deserved. Our next inductee into the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame says he's shocked to be receiving this honor. He's always trying to keep lower key and be almost a behind-the-scenes type, even while a competitive racer, but his diverse racing career has caught the attention of many over the years. Like many racers, this inductee discovered racing at a young age thanks to a parent's involvement. His dad, Glenn Walker, was a racer, and he got involved in racing through him. Before he was old enough to drive, he was a regular passenger in the water truck, taking rides around the racetrack as it was prepped for the next day's races. He eventually got a semi-modified to work on and then drive, and in the early 80s, he hit the Elma dirt track for the first time. Nothing big, he says, but he was just getting valuable seat time in a race car. In those first years, he regularly ran on the asphalt at Evergreen on Friday nights before hitting the dirt at Elma on Saturdays. He also met and got to know fellow 2024 inductee Bert Johnson during that time. In 1984, he raced at WRA along with the likes of Rebel Jackson, which led to him getting into super modifieds, driving for Ken Martin and also the Kearns brothers. He meanwhile got his first win in a Washington open-wheel sprint car event at South Sound, driving a Watson Ward car that his dad originally drove. Catching on in super modifieds, he drove those through the 1990s, first being NSRA's top rookie in 1990. NSRA eventually transitioned to sprint cars and began racing those for a couple of years also, but kept racing super modifieds along with father Glenn. He then discovered non-wing pavement sprint car racing and raced on the mile-long Phoenix track. He then dropped a 360 motor in the pavement car and ran the USAC Western States Asphalt Sprint Car Series for a time, along the way picking up a win at Meridian Speedway in Idaho, which he considers one of the big highlights of his career. In the early 2000s, he switched back to dirt and began racing non-wing sprint cars in Oregon, including with the Oregon Double Shot Series. But he wasn't shy either, once in a while racing with the California-based USAC CRA 410 sprint cars, and was proud to do so despite being outgunned against the top wingless racers in the West. Meanwhile, he got built many race engines as well, and several of those engines won races around the Northwest. Throughout it all, his family was often with him traveling to the races, even the further out ones, spending time together and making memories. A crash in a wingless sprint car at Cottage Grove made him decide it was time to call it quits as a driver, but he still tries to keep involved when he can. He considers among his best memories over the years going to the Elma half mile with his dad Glenn, first watching and then helping him out and just being involved. It's come full circle in ways, as he has two daughters who are now dating drivers in the limited sprint car division at the modern Grays Harbor Raceway. Like he did for his father before, he's now usually in the pit area helping the girls' boyfriends out on Saturday nights in Elma. Though he is modest about it, his diverse career and accomplishments have earned the respect of all who know him. He won in super modifieds and sprint cars,
Yeah, I have a Don McLeod story too. Sorry. Sorry. One of the first times that I ever went to the pavement to race was my dad and I went up there with that Watson Ward car with the multi-milers on, and Ross Thomas and Don McLeod were there, and I started behind you guys because I was over a second slower in qualifying, and my dad just said, I was nervous, right? And he just said, well, just follow those guys. And so I did. I ended up third. You won, Ross was second, and I ended up Anyway, I really appreciate this. It goes without saying that this is a huge honor, and I really appreciate it. It was shocking. And, you know, Bert, you are a very calm and collected guy, because when I was younger and arrogant and thought I was, really good at what I was doing, I gave Bert a really hard time on more than one occasion. And he's probably, one of my better friends now, and I appreciate that. Rick and I, we did a lot of stuff together. After Larry Spoon passed, I kind of took on a role of helping Goodies with some of their motors, and that was a lot of fun. And so I think we made a lot of good memories together too. So Alex is building a new car now, stepping up his game. So working with John and his kids, it's really been a lot of fun. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
And we have one more again after our last inductee here. We will have Rick come up here and present the Spoon Distinguished Service Award and the Brownfield Exemplary Contribution Award here, so don't leave quite yet after this last inductee here. This inductee sadly passed away in January, but he had the experience of accepting the honor, the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame honor on behalf of his father several years ago. Now he was posthumously joining his father as an Elma Hall of Famer. His time around Elma spanned over 50 years. Growing up at the old Elma half mall, he watched cars owned and prepared by his father win championships. When he was old enough, he began crewing in the pit area. After doing his time as a crewman, he decided to try his hand at driving race cars himself, first getting into a hobby stock in 1983. In 1988, he moved into semi-modifieds, and in 1989 was voted the most improved driver in the division by the EARA. He was ultra competitive in nature, both as a driver and as a mechanic. Eventually, he decided to hang up the fire suit and focus on crewing, as he felt he was more naturally a mechanic. It was here where he would create his racing legacy as a crew chief in the 360 Sprint Car division in Elma. He was described by some as one of those who forget more about race cars than most people would ever know. He was involved in the careers of several drivers, some of whom won track championships in Elma. Crewing on the team fielded by Stony Glick, he crewed for Glick, and also future track champions Randy Van Acton and Donnie Fry. Van Acton being one who credited our inductee with helping get him a chance to race sprint cars. At one point, he crewed on 2 cars at once on Glick's team, but eventually it got to be a bit much to do both cars. And then he focused on just one, while bringing his son Jason into the fold to crew on the other. And a little competition between father and son commenced for a time. One proud moment came when Donnie Fry won a track championship, and in Elma with our inductee as crew chief. Perhaps his closest friendship and partnership was with a driver from Shelton named Jay Cole. He helped Cole build his first stock car in 1985 and was part of Cole's team when he won his first sprint car championship prior to departing for Glegg's team. After 2004, he reunited with Jay Cole, and along with team partner and fellow 24 inductee Trevor Wilson, who joined the fray in 2006, they became one of the top sprint car teams in Elma and around the Northwest for a long time, winning several races and several more track championships at Grays Harbor Raceway, including just last year. He was there for Cole's first title and for his last. One of the personal highlights was Cole's emotionally popular win at the 2006 Evergreen State Sprint Challenge, shortly after track promoter Fred Brownfield's sudden and shocking passing just a month before. A couple of wins at Skagit were also highlights for them. Their accomplishments as a team has submitted Cole's place in the Hall of Fame when his driving days are over, and also helped elevate Trevor Wilson to the Hall of Fame this year. Cole gave high praise to him as one of the biggest reasons for his success, as he had fun no matter what, but was also honest with Cole when needed. As well known as he was for his prowess as a crew chief, he was just as well known for being one of the best people to talk racing with, and being one of the best people to just have present in the pit area at Grays Harbor Raceway, or any other pit area for that matter. He was known to give his time and advice to anyone, and often loaned out parts to help other racers out. His competitive drive as a mechanic and crew chief made him unafraid to try different things on his race cars also. He died when votes for this Hall of Fame class were being tabulated, but ironically, he had the experience of accepting the honor on behalf of his late father in 2011. Now he joins his father, Jack Davidson, as an Elma Hall of Famer. His family accepting on his behalf. Please join me in welcoming to the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, Bill St. Paul.
I wish he was here today to accept this, but I'm sure he's down in Chico watching love, drinking beer, or Coors Light or something. Like you said, there's he forgot probably more than I'll ever know about racing, but we had a lot of good times, and we traveled all over the place, and I couldn't ask for anything more.
Congratulations to all of our inductees. We have 2 more special awards that are given out every year by the board for this Hall of Fame here. And as he gets set up here, I'll go ahead and turn things over to the president of the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame, Mr. Rick Levy.
Actually, Andrew is wrong. Tonight we're making 4 special awards. So, no, you're not supposed to. Okay. But our first 2 awards we give out every year at the induction ceremony, and they're named in honor of 2 of the greats of Grays Harbor Raceway that had vision for what could be here, did whatever it took to try to reach that vision and kept things going. Our first one is the Larry Spoon Distinguished Service Award, and Larry gave a lot In fact, you might say he actually gave his life to this track. He meant a whole lot, and this is a real special honor that Evergreen Auto Racing Association first started this award in 1984, and it went on for as long as the EARA was in operation, but then it kind of faded away when the EARA did. But in 2009, we decided as the Elma Auto Racing Hall of Fame to reinstate it. It's not usual when the board is discussing these awards that there's not a lot of discussion on who should get it, because there are so many worthy candidates. But this year, the award for the Spoon Award went to a unanimous inductee and a unanimous decision on the award. So I'd like Ed Williams to come forward. I've known Ed for a couple of years, and I really can't think of anybody that has done more for auto racing in the Pacific Northwest than Ed. So congratulations, Ed.
Not much to say on it, but thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You know, I got more out of it than I put into it. I think you get right onto it. So thank you very much.
Our second award is named after Fred Brownfield. It's a Fred Brownfield Exemplary Contribution Award. And Fred always said that he wanted to leave the fans knowing that they got so much out of the racing event. And he would help racers out. He did a lot of stuff that people didn't know about, a lot of stuff that they did know about. He was just an extraordinary man. And I think our 2024 award winner fits that same category. And again, the board unanimously picked this man for this award, Trev Wilson. Come on, Trev, don't be letting Vern influence you back there.
That was a surprise. Thanks again to Rick, everybody involved, Cindy, John. This is really special to me, and I'll cherish it always. Thank you very much.
As a Hall of Fame, we have another category of special award called the Exemplary Service Award. And we don't always give this out, and we've never given it out on induction night. But we decided to make an exception to it tonight, just simply because we knew that both of our award winners would be here to receive the award, and they meant a great deal to the Hall of Fame just the stature that they've helped us achieve and the work that they put in. I can't even express how much we appreciate everything that they've done. So at this time, I would like Andrew Kunis and Fred Rainer Jr. to come forward. Come on, Fred. I'll keep the mic away from you. Every year when we start planning,
You got 20 minutes.
contact Andrew, and my biggest fear is that he's going to say, sorry, Rick, I've just got too much on my plate. Because he does. But he never says that. He does a great job for us. I can't thank him for everything, all the time that he puts in preparing to honor our inductees. Thank you, Fred. Andrew. I'll let you speak for a second, but I'm not taking the mic back. Fred, clear back at the beginning, back in 2009, when we were trying to get this started, he was one of the first ones to start giving us some recognition. And somewhere along the line, I don't remember if it was 2009 or 2010, I think it was 2010, he had me on his Passing Point show that interviewed me about the Hall of Fame. Phil was on it also. And that really gave us some credibility, and he continued that through the years, and he's kept in contact even though it's been 13 years, and probably that long since I've seen him in person. But he's kept in contact and kept up with what we were doing down here and stuff. So, Fred, thank you for all you did in the beginning for us.
Thank you, Rick, and everyone on the board here. I'm flattered and honored to receive this award here. I'll try. So I did my first race at Grace Harbor Raceway back in 2000. I was 16 years old. I had grown up going to Skagit Speedway. It's been my lifelong home track. I moved away for a few years. My dad was in the service here in Michigan. The landscape in sprint car racing, and dirt track racing in general, changed in that time. Fred came down here, and everything was happening here at Elma now. We had heard about it at the start of the internet. And when we came back, it took us a couple of years to finally get down here to Elma to see Grace Harbor Raceway Park. And I've made at least one visit almost every year, except for maybe 2 or 3 years over the last 24 years now. And I generally have really enjoyed my visits to Grace Harbor Raceway. I travel all over the Northwest and elsewhere in the country here, but I always try to come here to Elma at least a couple of times every year, whether to announce the focus midgets or do the occasional fill-in announcing night. And it's become a second home to me. And I was approached before 2017 to MC my first Hall of Fame induction ceremony here. And I said yes, but needless to say, it was quite nerve-wracking. One, I never felt comfortable calling people on the phone. Everyone can call me here, but I always was worried that I would be bothering them at the wrong time here. So the first couple of years, it was a real adventure just get myself to call the inductees. Many of whom I never met, and some I had never heard of. But throughout it, I got to learn a whole lot of the racing history here in Elma here. A lot of stories that I heard from the inductees or their representing family fun thing to do. And this was the 5th time I emceed the ceremony. I was going to do 2020, but you know, we all know what happened back here. And I'm very glad to see that Rick, Cindy, Jeff, everyone here got this thing going again here. And I got a lot of stuff happening in racing here. And there might be some other stuff happening as early as this year that might be pulling me away. But as long as it's open here, I'll continue to be a part of this here. And again, as I said earlier, he likes to talk a lot, as we all know, but Fred Mayer Jr., I grew up hearing him announce. One of my earliest memories as a little kid at Skagit Speedway, he was in the booth announcing, and he, along with Ed Williams, is one of my mentors here. So I was very proud to introduce the both of them tonight, and to receive this award alongside Fred tonight is an absolute honor here. That means a lot, and thank you very much, and thank you everyone. Let Fred talk to you for just a moment here. Keep it down to 2 minutes. He's over order speaking here, he should speak here, but keep it quick.
No, absolutely, and I don't feel worthy of this, right? I know I've been around a few years and done some things, but my contributions to the Hall of Fame really have been minimal, but you know, done what I could through the years. I just thank you so much. Truly a great honor. Just great to see everybody here this evening. Thank you.
And on that note, thank you to Rick, Cindy, Jeff, Glenn, Randy, Mr. Waters back there, Mr. Dickinson, everyone involved. I'm probably missing 1 or 2 people, but everyone involved in putting this together. How about a big round of applause for the Elma Hall of Fame for putting this all together. We need all the inductees and or representing family members to please come up for a group photo. And then we'll have a group photo for all the inductees who were present there. They'll be wanting to come up for a group photo after that. So this year's inductees for a group photo. And then after that, all of the inductees throughout the history of this Hall of Fame will come up for a group photo as well. Those of you heading home now, please be safe. Be courteous towards your fellow drivers. If you need a designated driver, please get one. It is our very strong preference that you make it to your next race, wherever that may be. I'm Andrew Karen, Sean Hall, the voice of Grace Harbor Raceway. Here he is, helping out with the dessert auction here. And on behalf of the Elma Honors and Hall of Fame, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2025.